Thank you and welcome to the Region 5 and Western Tidewater Smvf Navigator Navigating Military Benefits. We appreciate everybody who's showing up for this during this very important high tempo operational time, and didn't seem like it was going to be that way just a month and a half ago, but that's the nature of military service. And sadly, we truly are in a very difficult period over in Eastern Europe right now. Like to welcome everybody and just go to our, just to welcome someone special to us here at Western Tidewater. We have a young lady who just finished up her doctorate at Liberty University. Her name is Tristan Galvez. Just wanted to say hi and let her introduce herself real quick. She'll be a clinician here with us in the Smvf program. Take it away, Tristan.
Hello, everyone. Good morning. I am a new clinician 3 to Region 5. I am a veteran myself. I served in the Navy. I did 3 deployments and I have recently finished my degree at Liberty, my doctorate. I graduate May 5th. So I'm very excited and happy that this journey is over. And I'm looking forward to assisting all the veterans, as well as working with the domestic violence population as well.
Well, we're happy to have you aboard, Tristan, and enjoyed working with you already, and can't wait to get to some of the projects here in the future. All righty, thank you. And yeah, here's our, as mentioned in our last webinar, we do have what we were discussing in the last one, the Region 5 Community Service Board's website. I'm not going to click on all of these, but I will kind of look at some of them. Just kind of, this is the Virginia CSB Region 5 homepage. You've got your Virginia CSB Region 5 CSB location. All 9 CSBs that are in Region 5, their contact data can be accessed through that. And of course, at the bottom there, the CSB Region 5 Smvf support page. And you can go ahead and click on that and we'll bring that up real quick. And that is our support page. And basically, let's see, can you scroll down just a hair there? And just to let you know, a lot of the things we talked about that are going to be available, and this is a Region 5 page. So anything you want to see on here from any of our CSBs, anybody who has a good idea that veterans need to have access to, please let us know. There is a section in here for exactly that. Just let us know that this would be a good idea to have in your resource page. We also have our contact information down at the bottom of the page. And also, just in keeping with the Lock and Talk program, Lock and Talk Virginia, there where it says for gun and med locks, if you need medication locks, that's like this. I have to kind of move it around so you can see it. These are medication lock boxes, and you have the gun locks that are, and we'll send you as many gun locks as you need. Please contact that email there, lockandtalk@wtcsb.org, and we will get those out to you ASAP. And you know, that's the only way they're going to do their job. They're going to make for better security, is to get them out in the public. So please contact us, let us know that you need those. All right, moving on to the next slide there. Factors to consider during this increased operations tempo. Basically, we were looking at some of the factors and discussing with all this coming up. You've got U.S. Armed Force members that are already deploying to NATO countries. Most members of the armed forces are going to see and have already begun to see rapid increases in deployment cycles. This has an effect throughout the family. Military families of military personnel and military families need access and immediate information to properly take care of their families. And anxiety and depression levels tend to rise in active military families and veterans of past conflicts also. So yeah, they're going to need help. They're going to need resources. Possible need for Ukrainian language interpreters and cultural competency if we begin to receive a large influx of families, displaced families here into this region. We have a very large Air Force base here, so that's always a possibility. And so many, due to the situation during this time, will need to find a variety of immediate resources and may require crisis counseling. And moving on. So the recommendations that, we've kind of brainstormed, close coordination of all CSBs, keeping in touch, sharing resources, available services, for anyone affected by this crisis, not just military families, there's veterans, the older generation, Smvf concentration, supporting veterans and their families through VA and non-VA resources throughout the deployment cycle, pre-deployment preparation, while deployed, and post-deployment. Critical needs such as healthcare, mental wellness, legal assistance, housing assistance, employment assistance, childcare, and caretaker assistance. Definitely critical to help bring down stress levels during these times of spouse separation in the military family. Today's presentation, starting off with myself. I'm the Smvf navigator here at Western Tidewater. We're going to roll into have Vincent Green. Vincent Green is going to be discussing Army Family Service Centers and the Fort Eustis area, and just the Army way in general of helping families there. He's from the Colonial Community Service Board up in Williamsburg. Then we'll have Jasmine Dunaville, our Bridges Crisis Stabilization Program Manager. This is for children under 17 years of age and under 15 days of crisis management. And then Lauren DeSimone from the Barry Robinson Center, another excellent program, services, and she'll be discussing treatment services, program highlights of the BRC. Michelle Johnson from Virginia Veteran and Family Support Center will give an overview of the programs and services of VVFS and the benefits programs there. Cassie Powell and also Chelsea Dukes will be joining Cassie. They are from the Virginia Legal Aid Society there in Suffolk, and they'll be introducing us to the VLAS services, and especially the services that apply to military families. A great asset to have right here in our community, in the Suffolk community. And they also have knowledge of where to go in your community and the surrounding 8 other CSB regions. We'll also have Heather Wilson, the outreach manager over at the Stephen A. Cohen Military Family Clinic, and she'll be discussing their services as well. And then we'll have our own Natalia Tagg from Western Tidewater, and she'll be discussing the possibility of refugees and displaced families and a little backdrop of that conflict. And she has a very experienced insight of that conflict, having family from both Ukraine and Russia areas. And then we'll have our conclusion, closing comments, and any other questions to discuss. So yeah, just moving on, we'll have a couple of announcements. Purple Up Day, Virginia Day. This is the Virginia Department of Education for Military Kids Celebration, wearing purple to school on Wednesday, April the 20th. And we're trying to work with other people around the area to see if they have any kind of benefits for any kind of perks, things that, maybe get in a ball game or something for wearing purple. But we don't have anything ironed out, and I don't have any solid word yet, so I don't want to put that out. But we're doing our best to see if that can happen for April 20th. And moving on, just real quick, for some of the older veterans and veterans just getting out or soon to get out of military services, the Disabled American Vets, the DAV here in the Suffolk area, is on 139 South Saratoga Street, Suffolk. Their hours are Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 10 to 2. So, pay attention to those hours, because you can't just show up anytime. These folks are volunteering their time. And Commander Murphy Coleman is the commander there. And if you need to know the DAV near your area, just Google it and have a contact telephone number for them, and get in touch with them there. I thought that had the number on it, but I guess I'll try and get that to you before the end of the program. But the DAV is outstanding at finding things within your service record, within your health record, and working with the VA in what your benefits are. Also, for active duty, contact information for the Navy, Fleet, and Family Service Centers. We've got quite a bit of Navy. This area is the largest military area in the United States. So you've got NAVSTAY Norfolk. There's their hours, address, number, and where they can be located. Little Creek Naval Amphibious Base, same thing there. The Oceana Naval Air Station over in Virginia Beach, same thing there. Your phone numbers, hours. If you don't have time to write all this down, we will get this entire presentation out to everybody. So that's pretty much a quick slide for those. If you we can go ahead and move on to the Langley Air Force Base. They also have a website, the Airman Family Readiness. You can pretty much type in Airman Family Readiness Langley, and it'll bring up a website. They have quite a bit of information. They are by appointment only, though. So, and their hours are 7:30 to 16:30, and there's their phone number. And they have quite a bit of services for the active duty members and their families. And moving on to the Army Support Center and Community Relations on Fort Eustis. That is the Soldier Support Center on Fort Eustis. And there's their telephone number, 757-878-3638. And on that note, we're going to move into our first speaker, Vince Green from Colonial Community Service Board. There's his contact info and phone. He is a 12-year active duty Air Force veteran specializing in the Eastern European theater. So he's probably familiar with some of the things that are already going on right now within the last couple of months due to his service. Transitioned to the DoD for 27 years. And he's been 9 years of providing services as a military liaison for Colonial, bridging any gaps between active duty veterans and their dependents to community providers. There's Vince's contact number. And on that note, we will turn it over to Vince.
Okay, thank you, Whit. In this slide, I included Fort Eustis's primary resource page. With limited time, please, go through it at your own time. There's many very good drop-down boxes like behavior health. You'll hit the plus and it'll drop down to more specifics. So yeah, it's quite a comprehensive amount of information. With limited time, I'll keep it short. Just want to say that I'm sure there's people there that I know, and perhaps others we have emailed. For the rest of you, again, my name is Vince Green, and I am Colonial Beaver Health Military Liaison. Our catchment area is James, York counties, the cities of Seaford and Poquoson. I work out of the Yorktown office, very close to the three primary bases, the Fort Eustis, Yorktown Naval, and Langley. I work very close with Camp Perry out of Williamsburg, and also the Coast Guard's Training Center, also in Yorktown. Again, with the short amount of time, if there's anything that anyone here needs, my contact information is there. Please don't hesitate to reach out. Over the years, my primary goal initially, of course, was to bridge any gap, as it said. Within the first month of me going out and visiting in person on the installations with the mental health doctors, PCMs, all the clinicians that I could get in with, our child and adolescent center went up 153%. So that just shows you what the need is out there. And yeah, again, if anybody has any questions, wants to pick my brain on any resources, pretty much anywhere on the eastern part of the United States, I've got contacts there. We've had referrals from the Pentagon all the way south of, I would say, mid-North Carolina. So, yeah, I just want you to know I'm here, happy to help out. I'm very passionate about this. The need is certainly out there, and hopefully we can keep striving forward, do our best to meet their need. I can see it becoming more and more busy as we go with, as Whit mentioned, the Ukraine and Russia's war. And I'll end with thanking Whit, Western Tidewater and Region 5, for allowing me to participate in this event, and I'll turn it back on over to you.
Thanks, Vince. I sure appreciate it. And Vincent is still quite busy during this time, and he was discussing how many referrals a week he gets, and it is significant. He's doing a lot of great things there in the Colonial area, and we sure appreciate you.
That's my honor. Right. Thank you.
Thank you. And coming up now, we have Miss Jasmine Dunaville from Western Tidewater. She is the program manager out at the Bridges Crisis Stabilization Center. And without further ado, we'll turn it over to Jasmine.
Good morning. Thank you, Whit.
Good morning.
So I'm going to share my screen for my presentation. And is everybody able to see this?
Yes, we can.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Good to hear.
So again, as Whit mentioned, my name is Jasmine Dunaville, and I have the pleasure of overseeing the Region 5 Bridges Children's Residential Crisis Stabilization Unit located out in Windsor. Okay. So what is Bridges? Bridges is a licensed, highly structured, 24-hour supervised short-term residential facility. So what does all that mean? Okay. Bridges is an 8-bed facility. Okay. And children will come to our program to receive stabilization services within 15 days. Bridges is still a fairly new program to our community. The grand opening was October of 2017, and the first admission actually happened November 20th of 2017. The goal of Bridges is to work collaboratively with the youth's family, their caregivers, and/or long-term community resources to ensure immediate crisis stabilization and ongoing recovery to reduce recidivism. We service children and adolescents between 5 to 17 years of age. And while the youth are with us at Bridges, they receive individual, group, and family therapy, again, up to 15 days. Now, this program is very unique because there's a lack of services for the military population or military families. And although we are connected to the state and we do bill insurances for our service, we do accept youth with TRICARE. Okay, so military families do not have to worry about, we have TRICARE, you know, nobody's going to service us. No, Bridges is definitely an acceptable service. So please be sure to get our information at the end of the slides, okay? So we service the following catchment areas: Chesapeake, Eastern Shore, Hampton, Newport News, Middle Peninsula, Norfolk, Portsmouth, Virginia Beach, of course, the Western Tidewater, which is Suffolk, Franklin, Southampton, Ivor, everything in between. And then, of course, Williamsburg. And this is our house. Again, this program is unique because it is not what we consider acute services, but it can be a step down service from an acute facility. We can also be utilized to divert hospitalization. So if your child is in the emergency room, or that child, excuse me, is in the emergency room, and the pre-screener says, you know, hey, your child is not necessarily meeting criteria for acute, we can be used to help still stabilize those behaviors and address any concerns. And it's a 3-story house, again, with 8 beds. We have 8 beds. So our admission criteria: the child must be between 5 to 17 years of age. They can be diagnosed with a serious emotional disturbance. So something like major depression. Sometimes we, of course, see generalized anxiety. You might see some disruptive mood dysregulation. We even work with a few youth from the IDDD population, and that just simply stands for the intellectual and developmental disabled population. So although you see on the screen that the IQ must be 70 or above, even if that child's IQ is below, you can still submit the referral. And if we, depending on what the milieu of the current census or the current children on the unit, we will review to see if we can appropriately service that particular child. All right, so this program is voluntary. The child and the parent must agree because we are not a locked facility. So we will ask questions about running away, if they have a history of running away or eloping from other settings. And of course, they must be medically stable. Some of the referral sources include local hospitals, emergency rooms, can be emergency services, inpatient facilities, which are places like Kempsville, Riverside, or Newport News Behavioral Health, case managers, the FAP committees. Each city has their own FAP committee, so sometimes FAP will refer children also, probation officers, and other stabilization units. Some of the group topics we address are, of course, anger management, self-esteem, depression, anxiety, social skills training, conflict resolution. We address medication management and evaluation if needed, and of course, proper hygiene, because most parents have issues with their children taking baths. And these in front of you are some of the modalities we touch on to keep the children engaged during their 15-day stay. And now this is the referral. Our referral is 4 pages total. The first 2 pages that you see in front of you is for the referral source to complete thoroughly, okay? So you're gonna put your first and last name, your phone number. If there is a CSB case manager, you wanna put that in the case manager name section here, along with their phone number next to it. In the full name, you're gonna put the child's first and last name, the address or the residence that that child resides at, their date of birth, their gender and their race, and then their insurance. And again, because this is catered towards the military families for today, you're gonna put TRICARE here, and then you just leave the Medicaid number box blank, all right? The social security number, or at least the last 4 for that child, their highest level of education, and then the guardian full name, first and last name, the guardian's address, and that guardian's phone number. Again, because this is a voluntary program, we always make sure we make contact with the guardians to give them information about the program and to also receive their consent for the service, okay? So the reason for referral, that might be something such as, you know, Jasmine has been in the ED for 2 days. She's not meeting criteria for acute, but is unable to contract for safety, and stabilization services would be beneficial to this child and their family. Or it could be something like this child has been at the Barry Robinson residential program, and now they are looking to discharge to return home. And we think step down services would be beneficial to help bridge the gap back to the family's home, okay? So those are just 2 examples of the reason for referral. The next section is community resources. So does this child have case management? Does the child have intensive in-home? Do they have a psychiatrist or outpatient therapist? That is where you're gonna put that information. And again, because this is based, I'm catering to the military population today, if that child or family has a TRICARE care coordinator through their insurance, you can put that information there too, because it is important that we coordinate with that care coordinator, all right? And then some of these other boxes are self-explanatory, so I'm not gonna take your time, too much of your time to go through them, but just making sure that every box is thoroughly completed is the most important. Now, if the child is coming from home, on the second page here where it says information needed if being discharged from a hospital, of course you would leave that blank if the child is coming from the home, okay? And then at the bottom of page 2, you see that once your referral is completed, this is the appropriate email address to submit your completed referral for our admissions team to review. All right. Now, page 3 and 4 is very, very important also, because if that child is receiving medications from a prescribed MD or psychiatrist or even their PCP, okay, you want to make sure that prescribing doctor completes the medication name, the dose, the route, and the frequency, okay? Now, if this child is coming from home, it is not imperative for the last dose date or the initials box to be completed. The most important part is getting that medication name, the dose, the route, and the frequency completed. And then your prescribing doctor is going to sign on page 4 down here. Where it says print name and signature, title, and date on page 4. That is where the prescribing doctor will sign, down here in this section, okay? So now, are there any questions that I can answer for you all? Any questions about the program? All righty, well, I'm going to accept.
Yeah, that great information, Jasmine. Sure appreciate it. And that's a great program right over there in Windsor, Virginia.
Whit, I had a quick question for Jasmine.
Sure, Absolutely.
Jasmine, what's your turnaround time that folks would expect when they submit a referral before the team is able to get back to them to talk about admission, and what are some of the discharge planning items that you might go through?
That's a great question, Brandon. Thank you for asking that. So when the team receives the referral at the CCSU admissions at WTCSB.org email thread, we respond to that referral source to let them know that this has been received. You can expect a decision to be provided within 24 hours if there are no additional questions or concerns that the team has. Most of the time, if the team has any questions, it's going to be related to medical. So if your medical information is not thoroughly presented or provided, we are most likely going to have follow-up questions. So that will be times where it might extend a decision being provided if we are requesting additional documentation. But on average, let's say we typically are able to provide an admission date or intake date within 72 hours to any referrals provided. Okay, now some of the discharge planning that takes place, again, like I mentioned, having that TRICARE care coordinators information is going to be integral to working with the military population, because Medicaid services are always different from what TRICARE offers, right? So with that, between myself or one of my clinicians will be responsible for coordinating with that care coordinator through TRICARE to ask about what services are within network that we can assist this family to be linked to. Okay, does that make sense to everybody? So we try to make sure that families and the children have some level of support within the home prior to us discharging them on day 15. Okay. What other questions do you all have for me? Well, I'm going to take the silence
I have
as
a question.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Okay.
I know this webinar is pertaining to veterans and military. So, I mean, with your slide, is this pertaining also to civilians? Your house, is it for civilians as well?
Yes.
Okay.
We service military families and like you just said, in civilians too. So we have some children that what we call receive Medicaid benefits.
Yes.
We provide services to those families also.
Okay. Thank you.
No problem. Any other great questions for me? So I was just that thorough for you all. I did my job this morning.
You were, Jasmine. That was awesome. Thank you.
All right.
Yes.
Well, no problem. Thank you for having me, Whit.
You bet. Thank you. And that was a great question. Both really good questions and concerning, this is a military program that we're running. However, absolutely, these services are very much available to the civilian population. And on that note, we'll segue right into Lauren DeSimone from the Barry Robinson Center, who runs a center very, very much the same. They do specialize in military families and probably a little longer term than the 15 days there at Bridges, but great programs. And on that note, we'll turn it over to Lauren DeSimone.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Can you guys see my screen, Whit? We good?
Yeah, looks great.
Okay. So I went ahead and I added the Space Force on there. So just so every single branch is represented. But as Whit said, my name's Lauren DeSimone. I am one of 3 regional directors of military relations for the Barry Robinson Center. I'm your local one here in the Hampton Roads region. And as you may or may not know, our center is located here locally in Norfolk, Virginia. There it goes. We are a 100% military-focused residential treatment facility that is ages 11 to 17. What that means is that every single kiddo, and I say kiddo, I'm sorry, every single adolescent that has come through our program has lived a military lifestyle. So whether that's the child of an active duty personnel, whether that's the child of a veteran who the kid was around when that veteran was living that active military lifestyle, Gold Star kids, reserve, and even retiree kiddos as well too. What sets us apart is that we actually incorporate that treatment into their residential. So as you know, we are we're that higher level of care when all lesser restrictive options have failed. So our average kiddo varies on a different basis, but they may have been to one or more acute stays. They may have gone to a program like Bridges. They may have gone to a partial hospitalization program, but whatever level of care they're receiving at home was not a high enough level of care. And that's when they come to a facility like ours. We're an average of 5 to 6 month stay, but we are an open campus. So that is one of the only disqualifiers that I will tell you outright is a no, is if they are an elopement or runaway risk. So all of our kiddos are also there on a voluntary basis. As you can see, since 2014, I'm sure that number has probably gone well over 800 military families by now. And we have everything from PTSD to depression and anxiety. We have a primary behavioral or emotional diagnosis, and that adolescent can have a co-occurring secondary substance abuse or eating disorder. It just really depends on if they're actively using, if they're going to be detoxing, we do have to refer to another facility. And then also if they are actively in the phases of binging and purging, we do refer out to eating disorder locations as well too. So that is taken care of because we are primary emotional and behavioral. It's just a little bit. The evolution of Barry Robinson Center. So if you want to take a look, we've actually gone through quite a few identities. About 8 years ago, we made the decision to go sole military. So we have focused on that military child for the past 6 to 8 years. Before that, you may have heard about Barry Robinson being a home for wayward boys or even a high school. So we're very lucky that the James Barry Trust has actually allowed us to do multiple different things. But we are now somewhat of an expert, as I would like to call it, on that military residential children program. This is just a quick overview of our campus. You can kind of see it's a very nice open campus. It is reminiscent of what we call a mini William and Mary. If you were to walk onto campus, you would not know off the bat that it was a residential treatment facility. We sit on 32 acres. As I said before, we are an open campus style with no fence, lots of green space and several playgrounds, including a basketball court on campus, a soccer field, lots of gazebos and open space that like to be utilized, whether that's during individual therapy, family therapy sessions, visitation, or even during their education time where our teachers will come out and utilize that green space and fresh open air. We actually do have a completely separate school building. That actually is an older picture. So if any of you ever do come to campus, our education building has been completely rehauled from top to bottom. We have a whiteboard in every single classroom, and we actually have a really great ratio. In addition to teachers, we also have TAs that specialize in those base subjects. And we also utilize a program that if they need French, they need German, they need Calculus 3, it's called Ingenuity. And we're able to make sure that they stay on track with their school and with their particular curriculum. We're a fully accredited school, but we do go based off of the curriculum of where that child is from. So our VP of Education and his team is really great about looping in with that child's base program and just checking in to make sure that we're going to meet all requirements. If there are any IEPs or special educations in place, that we're able to meet those. Sometimes they don't apply at a facility like ours, but then we're also able to test and work with their home base if those do need to be drafted as well too. We do have a dedicated recreational art and music facility. Our recreation team is amazing. We do everything from an equine program to music therapy to a Boy Scout program. And we even have a therapy dog that I need to add to this. But if you follow us on any social media, you will see him. His name is Bo. He's used during group settings, and also the individual therapists can request them if they know it's going to be a particularly hard individual therapy session. We also do have a standalone dining facility with a certified dietitian and nutritionist. So if any of the adolescents have any nutritional needs, everything from diabetes to allergies to gluten-free, we're able to accommodate for that. What sets us apart is that we have quite a few different things that I like to call unique to Barry Robinson. We have, as I said, our pet therapy for Bo, but we also have play therapy. We implemented a program called Parenting with Love and Limits. If you look up, it is a program by Scott Sells, and I believe we may be one of the first residential programs to be using it. We also have the Circle of Security. And if we have any adolescents that come in with substance abuse, we utilize a program called the 7 Challenges, which is unique to adolescent substance abuse issues. And you can always Google and look up any of these things as well, too. We have weekly visits with their psychiatrists, at least 2 individual therapy sessions a week, if not more, and at least 1 family therapy a week, if not more. If they are there for secondary substance abuse, they also have at least 1 additional individual and 1 additional family therapy on top of their mental health and behavioral health therapy sessions. We also have rec therapy, art, music, and equine, speech therapy and occupational therapies needed. Like I said before, a registered dietitian, 7 challenges for those that are dual diagnosed. We also have daily clinical therapy groups by clinicians, and we're very, very lucky that we have a very strong clinical team. It varies anywhere. Right now, I think we're sitting at about 10 to 12, just based on the amount of residents and counseling we have at any point in time. I kind of talked a little bit about our education program earlier. Like I said, we are accredited and we are recognized by the National School Association of Special Education Teachers. We are at 6th through 12th grade, but we can adjust based on that function level. We have a 1-to-8 teacher ratio, and the classroom with paraprofessionals are those TAs that we talked about, and also sometimes our residential coaches. So for every 1 adult, we have 3 kids, which is actually a really great ratio. So our kids are outnumbered by adults on our campus. We operate a year-long school, so there is no summer break. So if your child is ever behind, we're able to help catch them up. We have a full-time PE teacher, and we actually just implemented a farm-to-table vegetable garden, everything from herbs to cucumbers and other vegetables to sunflowers. And because of our dietitian and nutritionist, they're actually able to utilize them into their lunches and their meals. And so it's just a really neat thing for these kids to see grown in front of them, put into their meals. We partner a lot with the military community, everywhere from Fort Bragg, Wounded Wear, Operation Homefront. These are just some of the events that we've done specifically for military families and kids. If you guys ever have any events, we're more than happy to be out there as well, too, educating and talking about our program. And just some pictures. We actually just implemented a military courtyard project in the middle of our campus. And then every April, we do a big month of the military child, and we purple up campus. So all of our trees get ribbons, all of our flags get turned to military appreciation. We are going to be doing a big celebration this year where all of our dorms are actually going to be competing in, I believe it's a capture the flag. So we have 72 beds, and of those beds, they are separated into dorms, which are then further into male and female and higher and lower ages. So every dorm is going to be assigned a military branch, and so they're going to be doing a capture the flag by branch. So that will actually be pretty neat. In the past, we've also had, as you can see, stationary displays. The Coast Guard have come out. We've also had some search and rescue vehicles, and we've also done a showing of Project 22 that we've partnered with. So just a lot of different items to give back to our military community. Just some testimonials. And then I wanted to briefly talk about some of our community-based services. Now, these services are open to everyone. The only thing that is 100% military affiliated is our residential treatment center. We actually do have several other programs that are open to all in the community. One of those newest things is called our therapy zone. As you guys know, we are in what I would kindly call a mental health crisis. And we have 3 providers that are solely focusing on providing outpatient therapy for 3 to 17-year-olds on an individual and family basis. We are doing that in person in Norfolk for TRICARE, Medicaid, Anthem, Aetna, and Optima. And as I said before, that's open to both military and the general civilian population. We also do therapeutic foster care. So we work with the local and statewide DSSs if we ever have any kids that are in need of therapeutic foster care placement. And we work with those foster families to help find the treatments that they need. And we also support local families in becoming certified foster parents. We do also have a program called Next Steps to Success. It is a positive youth development program for 13 to 15-year-olds that are under the poverty line in the state of in the city of Norfolk. It is an after-school program and a summer school program. Please ignore those dates. I apologize. They are incorrect. Obviously, those are in 2021. However, it focuses on character building and leadership development and just teaching them different ways to break that poverty cycle for the future. So if you ever do have anyone that's interested, Ernesto Garcia is on there as well too. It is a 100% free program for those kids that qualify. And then lastly, we also work with a program called Together We Can Smart Transitions. And it basically gets kind of those older kiddos. So you're talking 15 to 18-year-olds in this Hampton Roads in Southeastern Virginia, preparing them for their future, whether that is to join the workforce, interview schooling techniques, things like that. That is it. This is me. Does anyone, I have a couple of things pop up in the chat. Let me see if any of those are questions. Oh, nope. Okay. If anyone has any questions. All right. Well, my information is in the chat. So if you guys have any follow-up questions, please feel free to reach out. And thank you guys so much for having me.
Thank you, Lauren. That's great. And I think a lot of times, in the military community, some people do tend to forget about how much the family goes through. And it's truly sad right now. You can almost get PTSD turning on the television right now. And when you have these children that are watching these sites come in from overseas and in the conflict zones right now, knowing that they have a loved one going possibly into harm's way, it definitely has an impact. And yeah, appreciate everything you do, Lauren. And we're kind of slipping behind in time. Not your fault, Lauren. That's basically mine. It's a great program though. You guys are putting out some great information.
Sorry, I tried to go through quickly.
Oh, absolutely. That was great stuff. We have from the Virginia Veteran and Family Support Center, Michelle Johnson, and she's going to give an overview of the programs and services of VVFS. Welcome, Michelle.
Thanks, Whit, and good morning, everybody. If you guys give me a couple of seconds, we'll go ahead and share our screen and get our presentation up.
Yeah.
Hey, Marcus, I think you need to enable the content up top.
How are we looking? Is it showing?
It is. It's in presenter mode. We can see the notes at the bottom.
All right, let me see how I get it out of there. How do I take it out of presenting mode?
Try it again and see if it comes. If it doesn't work, we'll go ahead and just move forward. All right, we'll go ahead and move forward. All right, good morning, everyone. My name is Michelle Johnson, and I am the East Regional Director with Virginia Veteran and Family Support. We are so happy to be here today to have the opportunity to speak with you all regarding the services that the Virginia Department of Veteran Services offers. With me today, I do have two of my colleagues, Anthony Swan and Mary Harmon, who will join me in with this presentation as well. All right, so the Virginia Department of Veterans Services, or DVS as we like to call it, connects Virginia's veterans and their families to federal and state benefits, support, quality care, and the recognition that they have earned. DVS is organized into 6 different service delivery lines, which we will talk about. And each of them is under the leadership of a director who reports directly to one of the deputy commissioners that you see there. And then those deputy commissioners ultimately are under the leadership and report to our commissioner, Daniel Gade. All right. We have Mary Harmon, who is going to start us off by providing a brief overview of our benefits department. So Mary, over to you.
All right, thank you. So just let you know, my name's Mary Harmon. I am retired military, retired from the Navy. I've been working with DVS for over 10 years, and I do work for the benefits department. So, our main mission is to provide Virginia's veterans and their family members with accurate, timely, and ethical education and assistance in obtaining the federal and state benefits they have earned through service and sacrifice to our Commonwealth and nation. But just to let you know a little bit of background about benefits, we do have 34 offices around the Commonwealth of Virginia. We serve everyone. We still have World War II veterans that we serve, all the way up to the transitioning members. And we definitely assist everything from filing their initial claims, and there's no timeline on initial claims. So we do, like I said, even World War II veterans come in and maybe they've never filed a claim before. So we can assist them with their VA benefits claim for compensation. So that's what we do in our benefits side of it. And it's not just the veterans, it's also their families, surviving spouses. If a veteran passes away, we can help them with a burial claim. Anything has to do with maybe a flag or getting a headstone, we can assist with that. So there's a whole lot of things we can do with just the benefits department. And if you have any questions, you could definitely, if you put it in the chat, I did put my email address in there. So if you have any questions, you can always email me with any benefits questions. Thank you.
Thanks, Mary.
Yeah.
All right. We're going to move forward with our Education, Transition, and Employment Service line, or as we like to call it, VEET. And VEET ensures that every veteran or eligible person has access to GI Bill approved post-secondary education, training, licensure, certifications, that our veterans and family members have connection to V3 certified employers and Virginia colleges and universities. So they take care of all of the education, transition, and employment needs for our veterans or their eligible family members. Next up, we have our care centers. So DVS operates 2 veteran care centers in the state of Virginia. And our care centers provide affordable long-term nursing care for our Virginia veterans. Along with that long-term nursing care, the care centers also provide Alzheimer's and dementia care and short-term rehabilitation. Next, our cemeteries. Our cemeteries provide that final resting place for our veterans and their eligible family members. And we actually have 3 veteran cemeteries, one located in Amelia, one located in Suffolk, and one in Dublin. And then with our care centers, just so you all know, we do have 2 additional care centers opening, and we actually have one that's opening here in the Virginia Beach area. Next, we have our Virginia War Memorial. So the memorial honors our fallen heroes by passing on their stories of sacrifice so that our future generations have that education and that experience to kind of know what our veterans have dealt with. And then our Virginia War Memorial is located in Richmond. If you have not gotten an opportunity to visit the War Memorial, I very much so encourage you to do just that. And then we have the Virginia Women Veterans Program, and our Women Veterans Program provides access to community resources to educate, unify, and empower our women veterans here in Virginia who have served in the military in all eras. With our Virginia Women Veterans Program, we do hold a Women Veterans Summit, which is scheduled for June of 2022. So what I will do is I will pass that flyer along to Whit so that he can make sure that each and every one of you have that flyer to pass along to your networks, your clients, or yourself if you are a woman veteran here in Virginia. And last, but certainly not least, we have the Virginia Veteran and Family Support Program. We were established in 2008 to respond to the growing need to improve and expand services to our veterans and service members. For those of you who are familiar with our program, we were the Virginia Wounded Warrior program, and then in 2015, we switched our name to Virginia Veteran and Family Support. And the reason for that change was because we wanted to make sure that we encompassed all veterans, because we don't serve only veterans that are wounded. And we wanted to make sure that we captured the family, because we do understand that the family serves as well and that they do have needs. So we did that change in 2015. Right, so Virginia Veteran and Family Support, or VVFS, provides resource referrals, care coordination, and supportive services to our Virginia veterans, members of the National Guard and Armed Forces, reserves, along with family members and caregivers. With our program, we also place a special emphasis on getting our service members, veterans, and their families connected to behavioral health supports to address any challenges resulting from stress-related conditions or traumatic brain injuries connected to military service. So our goal is, if there is a veteran or a family member that has a need, our goal is to connect them to the appropriate resource in the community that can address that need. One of the other things that just makes us kind of stand apart from other resource specialists is that we're never going to just give the veteran a resource and say, here, you're on your own, go ahead and call them. We're going to vet the resources, make sure that they're still operating. We're going to make sure that the veteran or the family member meets the eligibility requirements. We're going to advocate on their behalf if needed. So we're really going to walk alongside them in their journey. All right, so who do we serve? So our program serves veterans in any service era, regardless of discharge status or time in service. And we also service their families as well. Again, we recognize that our families serve as well. Again, we service caregivers of these veterans and service members and members of the National Guard and reserves, as long as they are not on active federal service. Like I mentioned, I am the East Regional Director, so my region covers Accomack Eastern Shore all the way down through the Hampton Roads area and then down through the Middle Peninsula and Northern. But we are a state agency, so we do cover the entire state, and we are broken up to 4 different regions. So there you can see our coverage map. We have an East region, a Central region, a Northern region, and a Western region. And then here is our org chart. So you can quick look at that. And now I'm going to turn it over to our Peer Services Director, Anthony Swan, to talk a little bit more about our program. So over to you, Anthony.
Thank you, Michelle. Hey, good morning, everyone. It is still morning, right? The day is just flying. My name is Anthony Swan. I am a retired Marine. I work out of Fredericksburg, and I am the Peer Services Director for the Virginia Veterans and Family Support. So I'm going to give you a little bit about the different specialists that we have, and I'm going to start with the resource specialist. They are our backbone actually for this for the Virginia Veterans and Family Support Services. Everything that we do normally rolls through them. Their job is to coordinate services for the different veterans that come across our purview. Excuse me. They connect them with the correct service provider. They do something what we call a comprehensive service plan. And as Michelle said earlier, their job is to stay with that veteran until that resource they've been connected to that resource, and we see that there is some movement in that veteran's favor. So we try to stay with them until the issue is solved or until we need to find another resource. They also use only nonprofits. So the veterans that we connect them with, they're nonprofit organizations. So there's not where they have to worry about paying it back or whatever. So we are always redoing that research. And when we find that organization, that nonprofit organization, and we can link them together, it makes things a lot easier. We are connected to the VA. That is one of the things the resource specialists do to ensure that they are connected to the VA, community services boards, and we use other behavioral health providers also out in the community. One of the things about what resource specialists do, and Michelle did mention a few minutes ago, is our mandate for VVFS is behavioral health. But you know as well as I do that sometimes we come across veterans or their spouses or family members who can't afford it themselves. We have the funds to assist a veteran to get into behavioral health services. All they need to do is call us, let us know, hey, I got a DD 214, I need behavioral health services, or my family needs behavioral health services. And we can assist those veterans in getting those behavioral health services started. We have to remember that, no veteran has ever served without assistance from their family. So we want to make sure that we take care of them also. Okay. So that's basically what the resource specialist does. My job, I am the director of the peer services for VVFS. Yeah, thank you, Marcus. I have 10 peer services across the state. Those specialists are all veterans. We range from years of 8 to 27 years, and we all have had behavioral health needs that we've had to come through in order to make ourselves better. So what we do is we use those behavioral health needs that we have been through, and we use our military service to connect to a veteran. We work strictly in the community. We do not work within a behavioral health institution. And that's the people that we are looking for. We're looking for that veteran that's out in the community that's saying to you or to anyone around them that, look, I know I need some assistance, but I'm kind of reluctant. Or maybe they don't know they need assistance. And you feel, I tell my peer specialists all the time, when you feel their hairs on the back of your neck going up, that there's something this person needs, then they need to reach out to us and allow us to try to assist them. So we are looking for that veteran in the community, that one with the suicidal ideations, the ones that have that severe depression. And what we do is we use what we have been through in our daggone lives, along with our military background, to bring that veteran to us and to bond with that veteran. And once we get that bond, then we can start making those suggestions. Again, if you know anything about peer support, we never tell a veteran what to do. But we try to make that bond, get them to understand that we really care, we really trust in us, and then we start making those suggestions, and we use our life experiences to get that veteran to possibly consider to move forward. We work with veterans for as long as 2 to 3 years. And I would just use this real quick. I know we don't have much time. Had a veteran a year and a half before he would even move, finally got him to accept services, and it took us another year and a half before we got that veteran where he felt like, I can do this on my own. And we stuck with him through all of that. Okay. The last person within our program is the Veteran Justice Specialist. And if you've worked with anybody who's been incarcerated, you know that some come out and they are hopeless. Families will push them away because they've been incarcerated. They will lose friends. They lose their job opportunities. They lose housing. Well, our veteran justice specialists, that is their job. Their job is to get that veteran and to assist that veteran to get back on their feet, to reduce recidivism. We don't want them going back. And I don't know how many of you know this, but most veterans that are incarcerated are honorably discharged veterans. And you gotta ask yourself a question about that. You know, you did honorable services in the military, and you get out, and now you are incarcerated. So we want to make sure that we take care of those veterans as much as we possibly can. One of the things that our veteran justice specialists do is to sit on the military dockets, the veterans dockets across the state. And we sit on those dockets to advocate for those veterans, to get them better, to get them back on their feet, and to get them the care that they need so that they can move forward in society. Okay. So those are the three specialists that we have. This is a spectrum of services. And when I start talking about this, I've covered some of this already, but just some things I'm going to bring to your attention. One of them is, as I said before, we do care coordination. When we connect with a veteran, he says he needs housing. We want to know what else does that veteran need. Do you need behavioral health? Do you need other things for your family? So we do that care coordination and that assessment. And once we get that assessment, then we do the needs coordination, or the needs, the needs assessment to get more information out of them and see if we can do a comprehensive coordination plan for them. Under family services, another thing I'm going to talk to you about there is we have something also called the Mission Healthy Relationship Workshop. I don't know about you, but after I've been married for a while, my communication with my spouse kind of went downhill. And what we do is we find that the military, a lot of that happens. The military member gets PTSD, TBIs, depression, and they've stopped talking. And as we deploy the military, our relationships with our spouses begins to get wider. Mission Healthy Relationships is to allow the spouse and the veteran to come to a weekend workshop. It starts on a Friday, Saturday, and a Sunday. And what we do is we talk to them about PTSD, we talk to them about TBIs, and about how communication and to give them the communication skills that they need so they can begin to work together as a unit again. That is a 3-day course. We pay for the hotel, we pay for the food, we send them on a date on Saturday night, and hopefully they're going to use some of the skills we gave them so that they can begin to communicate. We've had very good success with this course. We also do one called Mission Healthy Family Retreats. That one usually goes in Williamsburg. At this time, I do not know the next one is going to go, but I'm sure as soon as Michelle gets that word, if you guys would like to send some of your veterans there, she will let you know. But they do basically the same thing, only this time in a family atmosphere. I talked to you about peer services already. The only thing I would tell you is that we do run groups. Those groups, we have 4 groups across Virginia. One I am especially proud of, and that's the female veterans group that we're running. We think females should be able to get together, veteran females get together and discuss their wants, issues, and whatever. So what we did is we created a group just for females. We have 3 others. The only thing I will tell you about the groups is this. You have the ability, we send it out, and we tell veterans, you have 3 groups that you can go to. It's a virtual group. You can dial into that group. If you do not, if that group does not fit what you need, there's another one. If that one doesn't fit what you need, there's another one. We want you to find the group that fits you. And once you find that group, hey, we want you to be a part of it and move forward with that group. I talked to you about justice involved services, okay, already. So I'm gonna go ahead and skip over that one. And the last one is outreach. We will come anywhere, give any kind of outreach assistance that we can give. We do not mind giving resource tables, community events. One of the things that we are very much involved in right now is training the public on a military cultural competency. So we have those set up already, and we are more than willing to allow others to come in, because if you understand the military, you can better assist them. The last thing is crisis intervention. We do crisis intervention across Virginia. We work with first responders of all types to talk to them about what veterans are going through, what some of the things they can do to de-escalate situations, and how veterans think so that they can better respond to veterans in crisis. So very quickly, I know I talked fast and there was a lot of ums and ahs in that one, but hopefully I gave you some good information that you can use. And we are more than willing, we would love for you guys to give us a call when you have a veteran. And if we can assist, we will assist in any way. Okay. This is our contact information. But of course, you can always call Michelle, and Michelle will be more than willing to assist you, or Marcus, who's on the line also. They work that region, so it would be quicker to get your hands on Michelle or on Marcus. But you can always give veterans this number right here, and they will assess where that veteran is and get them into the right region. Okay.
Any questions for us? All right. Like Anthony said, I do have my information in the chat, so you're more than welcome to reach out to me if you have any questions. Thank you guys for your time.
Thank you, Michelle, Anthony, Marcus, and Ben. You guys have always been great. Anytime I need to go for a handy resource, you guys are there. So, and I know that even right there in the middle of that, you found a resource for somebody there, and you know that's what it's all about, getting people in touch. And appreciate all the good info, and we'll talk with you soon. Moving on in the program now, we are very delighted to have Virginia Legal Aid Society, Cassie Powell and Chelsea Dukes from here in the Suffolk area, and they will be discussing introduction to the Virginia Legal Aid Society services, especially as relating to military families. And we sure appreciate their help and being here today.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Whit. Let me share my screen real quick, make sure we can get that up.
Sure.
Are folks able to see that?
Looking good here.
Awesome. Okay. Well, thank you all so much for having us. It's so inspiring to hear about the work that all of you are doing, and so exciting to hear about those resources that are available. We are really grateful to be part of this presentation with you all, and many thanks to Whit and his team for coordinating all of this and for inviting us in. We're very excited to be here. My name is Cassie Powell, and I am the managing attorney for Virginia Legal Aid Society's Suffolk office, which is in the same area that Whit and his team serves. And I'll turn it over to Chelsea Dukes, who's also in our office, to introduce herself.
Hi, my name is Chelsea Dukes. I am one of the paralegals for the Suffolk office. I typically handle public benefits cases.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Chelsea. It's nice to be able to tag team. So thanks to Chelsea for doing this with me. So we're going to talk some about our services. We don't just serve veterans and military families. We serve anyone who meets the income requirements for our services, but certainly have many things that we think can benefit military families and veterans. And so we hope that this information is useful to everybody who is watching, and always feel free to contact us. I do have my contact information in the chat, and Chelsea as well. And we'll also have our contact information at the very end. And so I really do welcome any questions or any information that you would like to have. We're happy to share that anytime, even if you're not in our service area. So Virginia Legal Aid Society, there's legal aids across the entire state. We're all our own organizations, but we all work closely together and do different things. And so Virginia Legal Aid Society serves from about Lynchburg to Suffolk, that kind of south central part of the state. And our Suffolk office serves from about Suffolk to Emporia. So we serve a pretty wide region out in rural southeastern Virginia. And so we're going to start just by talking about who we are, what we do very briefly. And then we're going to share some information that we think might be useful for the clients that you serve and the veterans and military families that you work with. So these are things that I think could benefit just about anybody. But I think we're going to, talk in particular about how some of these might be particularly beneficial for military families. So I should note that, this isn't, even though we're giving legal information, this isn't legal advice. And so a lot of these things can get pretty complicated. And so definitely want to make sure that if you have a situation where you need a will or guardianship or things like that, you're having these come up and with your clients, it's definitely best to talk with an attorney. But we're hoping that some of this information is able to just flag some things for you and be able to know, in a pinch, what someone might be able to do if they need something and kind of where to start. So this is kind of where to start and hopefully, next steps for folks. So just some information about what we do. So we provide free civil legal assistance to low-income families and individuals. So we are free. We do not charge anything for our services. And we handle all different types of civil legal cases. So we do housing, public benefits, healthcare, family law, education, advanced directives, which are wills, powers of attorney, and we also do consumer cases. So we handle just about any kind of civil legal case that you can imagine. Sorry, my cat is in the back and he's determined to participate in this presentation. So I'm trying to stop him. His name is Norman Bates, which is very apt. So anyway, so we handle all different kinds of cases. We do not handle criminal cases, but pretty much any kind of civil cases, we handle those. We do have income guidelines. So I should note that even though we do have the income guidelines here, we really do encourage folks to call us if you're close to these. And we also note that for seniors, so if we're thinking about veteran seniors, we can go above these income guidelines. So if you're working with someone who's an older person, maybe they're a veteran, for example, who's older, we do have some additional funds from our senior services funds to be able to serve above these income limits. So just wanted to make sure to flag that. And so how do you contact us? This is just some information on how to contact us. You can find all of this at our website, but also I can't see the chat, but I'm assuming it has something to do with Norman Bates, but I will look later. But anyway, he's really determined. He really wants to participate. So anyway, so for folks who want to call us, if you refer folks to us, and again, this is just for Virginia Legal Aid Society. If you're in another part of the state, there's other legal aids and they're going to have their own system, but definitely reach out to them because we all, I know every legal aid in the state would want to help and be able to support the folks that you work with. But for us, if you're in our service area, call this number. What they will do is our intake folks will screen them for eligibility. And then, if it's something that we're able to assist on and they are income eligible, they'll receive advice. Every single person who calls us will receive legal advice as long as they meet our eligibility requirements. And sometimes they're transferred to the local office for assistance. So we're a tiny office. We only have a few attorneys and Chelsea, our wonderful paralegal, doing the public benefits. And so we can't provide representation to everyone who calls, but we certainly can provide advice to everyone. And in those cases where we really, that person really needs an attorney, we can, we always try to get them in. And so I tell all of our partners, and I've told Whit and his team, certainly if you've got someone that you really want to make sure that we see, I always encourage folks to give me a call and let me know that that person's about to call because we can sometimes get them in anyway. So always feel free to reach out if you are in our service area and you've got someone that you want to make sure that that they get through.
Cassie had just a real quick, had a great idea, and we're thinking about trying to get together. It's in the early budding stages, get a wills and advanced directives workshop for folks that can come by and get those things worked up. So we'll get the word out on that if we're able to accomplish that have a meeting where folks can get those things, powers of attorney, and get those things done quickly.
I would really love to do that. So if we're able to coordinate that, then, we certainly, I'm assuming Whit will be able to let you all know about that. And again, if you're not in our service area, I encourage you to reach out to the legal aid that's in your service area because they may be able to do this too. Again, just flagging some things. We're certain these are big topics, and we've got limited amount of time, but just want to be able to flag some things that might be important for you to be thinking about for your clients in terms of legal things that may be able to support them, provide them some additional assurance, and be able to help them manage their affairs. Let me see. Okay. So just starting with wills. Most of us know what a will is, but just to lay out some of the requirements and so that you have a little bit more information. In order to make a valid will, so this is a document that someone creates to say how they want their property distributed after they die. And so in order to make a valid will, you have to be at least 18 years old. You have to be of sound mind. So you have to be able to know what you want and understand that and be able to communicate that in some way. And you have to be acting voluntarily. It can't be something that you're doing because you're coerced or, because, someone's asking you to do that. You have to be acting voluntarily. And there's pretty simple requirements for a will. It has to be in writing. It must be signed by the person who's making the will, and it has to be witnessed by two people. So I should note that there is an exception. If someone handwrites a will, say you're acting in a pinch, and so someone needs a will very fast, it is a legally valid document if you handwrite a will and then sign it. And it can be very, very simple. It can just say what the person wants in terms of their property, and that's a valid will. That's legally valid as long as the person's handwriting is identifiable as their own, and as long as it's signed, that's a legally valid will. Again, it's always good to have an attorney draft up a will. That's definitely preferable. But if you're acting in a pinch, then you can definitely handwrite a will. I did just want to include what happens to your property if you die, die without a will. So a lot of folks are like, do I absolutely need one? What's going to happen if I don't have one? So this is the order in which your property goes. And so I won't go over all of this. I believe that the slides are going to be passed out. But this is the order in which, property is distributed based on state law if there's no will. So again, it's always good to have a will because you can then control, it gives you the ability to control that, to control what happens to your property. So powers of attorney, switching gears a little bit. Again, we're just kind of flying by. So powers of attorney, these are, I think, some of the most important things for military families, where you've got families where there's an active service member who may be deployed or may be active right now. A power of attorney is a very useful legal document that basically gives someone the authority to act on your behalf. And there's a lot of different ways to be able to put things in a power of attorney that makes it how you want, basically. So it doesn't have to be something that is indefinite. You can say that it's ending at a particular point. So for example, if you have a military family where one spouse is about to be deployed and maybe they're in the middle of selling a house or something, and the service member wants, the spouse who's staying in the country to be able to continue to sell the property without them being there, without them signing a power of attorney that specifically says, I give my spouse the authority to act on my behalf when, while I'm deployed, and it ends when I'm deployed, or it ends when the sale of the house ends. Those are the kinds of things that you can do. And there's a lot of leeway to be able to make a power of attorney as limited or as expansive as you want. So there are some requirements for power of attorney. This is something that I do recommend having an attorney draft up. There's another document here that I think is less important to have an attorney draft up, and I'll talk about that. But it's not the power of attorney specifically. I do think it's very important to have an attorney draft up. So if you do want it to be more specific, this is definitely a good one to have an attorney draft. So again, you can have this, just being conscious of time, I'm gonna go through this kind of fast, but there is a lot of things that you can put in a power of attorney that makes it can end earlier or not, just depending on how it is. So for example, you can say this isn't going to take effect until something happens, or it's going to end at a certain point. You can have all of that put in a power of attorney. So they can be very useful documents in all different kinds of situations. But again, it is very important to be very careful with these because you are giving someone else the authority to act on your behalf. So it's very important that you trust the person that you're giving that authority to. So advanced medical directives. This is something where you are you're writing down what you want to happen to you if you are in a situation where you are not able to direct your medical treatment. So for example, you might be incapacitated, maybe in a car accident, something may happen to you and you want to make sure that you set out what you want to happen. And this is actually one where it's caveat, always recommend that you have an attorney do everything. That's my attorney disclaimer. But if you can't, and you really, this is one where there's a really good form and it's actually in the law. It's actually a suggested form is in the law. And so that link is right here. So if you just want to make sure to do one yourself, this is actually one where it's a little easier to do on your own, to be able to say what you want, because this form is actually written into the law. So it is important to have this notarized. I think it also has to be witnessed to, but it's important to have this, say what you want. If you want to be an organ donor, if you don't want life-saving procedures, for example, if you don't want to be on life support, this is the document where you can put that in. So again, very, very important document to be able to have for folks. And then guardianships. So guardianships is the most restrictive of all of these decision-making documents. And so guardianships is something that's ordered by the court. It's something that you can do when someone is completely incapacitated and not able to make decisions for themselves. This is the most restrictive. It's the most complicated. Definitely need an attorney for this, but it certainly is an option if someone is absolutely not able to take care of themselves and they need someone to be able to guide them and help make those decisions. I should note that there's a difference between a guardian and a conservator. A guardian sort of makes life decisions. Conservator, basically, I think of as someone who handles the money. So those are, two different things, and you usually file to be both guardian and conservator. They don't have to be the same person. It can be different people. So again, these are kind of these four different, these four different documents that and situations where you may need some help in doing that from an attorney. But hopefully, this provided a little bit of background on some things that you might want to think about. And now I will pass it to Chelsea to talk about public benefits.
Okay, so starting off, I'm going to talk a little bit about Social Security programs. Cassie, would you move to the next slide? Okay, so for the most part, Social Security programs are benefits that are based on your work history. When it comes to disability, retirement, survivor's benefits, somebody needs to have worked a sufficient amount of time or worked enough credits to qualify for these benefits. The only one of these programs that doesn't require any sort of work history or work credits is SSI. That is a supplemental program that provides income to people who are disabled, retirees who maybe didn't work enough to have a substantial retirement benefit. It can supplement SSDI benefits, but the general amount that someone will get for SSI in 2022 is only $841 a month. So it's not a lot of money, but it is a supplement if you have no other income. Eligibility for that program typically requires that you either be disabled or have extremely low income and limited resources to support yourself. When it comes to survivor's benefits, that is a bit more relevant, I think, to the population we're speaking with today. Survivor's benefits are paid on behalf of a worker that's deceased to their widow, their family, their child who is under 18 with a disability or above 18 with a disability, the decedent's spouse who is still caring for a minor child, those sorts of things. And then finally, retirement benefits through Social Security. The requirement is that you have worked for at least 10 years, have 40 work credits, and you are eligible to apply when you turn 62. However, I will flag that taking early retirement before your full retirement age does reduce the amount of benefits that you're entitled to permanently. You elect to take a lower amount if you opt to take early retirement. Moving on to Medicare. So Medicare and Medicaid are two different programs. Medicare is designed for people who are 65 and older. There are, obviously citizenship or residency requirements, and you must, the important thing to remember is you really should sign up for your, Part A, Part B as soon as you're eligible. Your initial enrollment period, as it says on the slide, is going to be a 7-month period from 3 months before you turn 65, your 65th birthday month, and then 3 months after you turn 65. If you miss your initial enrollment period, there is a general enrollment period that runs from January 1st to March 31st every year. However, if you do not sign up when you are first eligible, there is a penalty of 10% of the standard monthly premium rate for every 12 months that you delayed signing up. In addition, if you don't sign up in your initial enrollment period and have to sign up during general enrollment, you could potentially be facing a period of time where you have no insurance because during general enrollment, the coverage doesn't actually start until July 1st. Moving on to just some coverage information. So we should all be aware of the 4 parts of Medicare. There's Part A, which is your inpatient hospital insurance. Part B covers your doctors, treatments, tests, things like that. Part C is the Medicare Advantage plans. It's an alternate to the typical fee-for-service Medicare. And Part D is your drug coverage. If someone does not have the funds to pay for the monthly premiums, which can be significant, there are savings programs such as the QIMBY program, Qualified Medicare Beneficiary, which will actually pay for Parts A and B and qualify you for assistance with Part D prescription drug coverage. There's also a SLIMB program. It's a specified low-income Medicare beneficiary, which only covers Part B. But these are things that, again, if you're having a difficult time affording these premiums, that you can apply for. You can apply for through Social Security, actually. So through Medicare, you can get assistance in the home, in nursing facilities, assisted living facilities. There are a lot of different services that are covered under Parts A and B. Typically, you will just need to, speak with your doctor, meet with your doctor, create a plan of care, get a referral for the services. As long as it's, medically necessary and your doctor believes that it is, you typically shouldn't have a problem. I will note, next slide. So I will note that if you are denied a service, as we talked about earlier, a lot of this legal stuff gets a little complicated. If you're denied a service, there are a couple of different appeals processes. I will say that the most important thing to keep in mind is anytime you are losing a Medicare service that was previously covered, anytime you receive a notice of, it's typically a notice of Medicare non-coverage, if you want to keep these services, because once you lose them, it can be difficult and time consuming to get them back. It is important to remember you have a right to an expedited appeal if you are about to lose services, as long as you appeal to the Beneficiary and Family Centered Care Improvement Organization, that big long acronym, before you are discharged from the services. The standard appeals process takes a bit longer. And that will typically come up if you are, reviewing your medical summary notices every 3 months, the summary of what your benefits are. You'll be able to see if, services are denied and have an opportunity to appeal there. It just is through, the MAC, the Medicare Administrative Coordinator, and it's a bit of a longer process. If you, I will just quickly add that if you file an expedited appeal, you are able to stay in that placement until after the decision is made. So it's important to, contact legal aid, contact someone if you need help with that to get it in as soon as possible. Sorry. Okay, moving on to Medicaid. So Medicaid is jointly funded by state and federal. There have been a couple of expansions in Virginia. So starting in 2019, there was Medicaid expansion to cover just a lot more people in the state of Virginia. And in 2021, that was expanded again to include dental benefits. I did include some information. Previously, it was just for children, but now the Smiles for Children includes adult coverage as well. And the contact information to find out who accepts Medicaid in your area is on screen. And I will say during the public health emergency, no one has been cut off from their Medicaid. So we're anticipating as the public health emergency ends to see a lot of those cases. Feel free to refer to legal aid if you have clients that need assistance appealing cessation determinations. Okay. So I'd included a little bit of information about spend downs and whatnot, but we'll move forward. So there are, in addition to Medicare that provides, home and community-based services, Medicaid also provides community-based care, including long-term care for, those who are disabled, for seniors, basically anyone who qualifies and has a medical need for assistance either in the home, in an assisted living facility, or in a nursing home. There is definitely a difference between nursing home care, which is generally more, medically treatment based, and care in an assisted living facility, which is generally going to be more for someone who is just needs assistance with their activities of daily living. There are fees for service for home-based care. If you are like an SSI recipient or you have no income, you are exempted from having to pay towards your long-term care services or community-based services. But for anyone who needs assistance, Medicaid can provide things like non-emergency transportation to doctor's visits, meal delivery services, can provide assistance with home or vehicle modifications, and can provide transition services if you have been institutionalized and are now trying to transition back out into the community, whether that be home or assisted living. I will now briefly touch on public benefits programs. Virginia Legal Aid Society assists with, applications for appeals of decisions regarding SNAP, TANF, energy assistance programs that are based around fuel assistance, which is usually a wintertime only. Crisis assistance runs through about March 15th, and cooling assistance during the summer. We can also assist with childcare subsidies, either applications or if there's been a denial. All of these benefit programs can be applied for through the Common Help website. It's on the screen. Next slide. Thank you, Cassie. So I will just briefly talk about appeals. So we do assist with appeals for all of these public benefits programs. The longest appeal period, if you get a notice changing your benefits, denying you, that sort of thing, is for SNAP. When it comes to benefit appeals, if you would like the service or the benefit to continue while you are in the appeals process, you generally need to file an appeal within 10 days. All other programs within 30 days. For anyone who's having difficulties with public benefits, the Department of Social Services, the staff there have a duty to assist anyone who needs to file an appeal with getting those documents in. Appeals generally don't need to be written, although it helps to have a record that you sent it in case issues pop up. But you can contact your, DSS caseworker to initiate the process. I will also say that in addition to filing for a hearing, if you would like to appeal a decision that Department of Social Services has made, you can also ask for a local agency conference, which is essentially a meeting with your caseworker, a supervisor, and it's their duty to explain why they were making that decision. It allows you to clarify if you don't understand, or if DSS is missing information that would change the decision in your case. And I will flag that in any case where there's going to be an administrative disqualification hearing, the key phrase to keep in mind there is intentional program violations. If Department of Social Services is of the impression or have the idea that you have intentionally misrepresented something in your application, you failed to disclose income, you haven't been forthcoming, there's a disqualification hearing process, and it's very important that you read all your notices carefully. You do not waive your rights to a hearing, and you take the time to look through the summary that they'll send, because if you are found to have misrepresented or intentionally violated program rules, you can be disqualified for increasing periods of time. Like the first disqualification is a 6-month where you will lose your benefits, and it escalates from there. So again, if anyone has one of these notices, please assist them with their appeal or reach out to legal aid. Okay, I'll turn it back over to Cassie. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Chelsea. I know that we are running really close on time. And so just flagging housing law stuff, just making sure that folks know that there's a lot of protections out there right now, and those end July 1st. So there's some big changes happening as of July 1st in terms of landlord tenant law. So if you're working with folks who are renting, just flagging some of those. And again, the presentation will be here. I believe on the website. So I won't go through all of those, just flagging again, there's the rent relief program. We've got these requirements here, but if you have folks in our service area who want to apply for the rent relief program, here is the hotline. We encourage you to do that. It's actually the income limits for the rent relief program, which pays up to 18 months of your rent, as long as there's still funds left in the state rent relief program. We assist folks in applying. You can get up to 18 months. Like I said, the income limits are actually much higher to qualify for that and to qualify for our services. So. And then we just have some resources here. One thing that we put in here that we didn't talk about is special education. We actually do special education work in our office, and there's tons of resources out there, both with us and elsewhere. So if you're working, you need help on that, we do that as well. So lots of information. We could talk about many of these things, so much more, but just wanted to flag some of the things that we do and share some important information for you all. Again, thank you so much for having us. We really appreciated being part of this. Happy to do this again with, whenever it would be helpful. We really appreciate the services that all of you provide, and really big thanks to WIT for coordinating and for inviting us. We're grateful to be part. Thank you all.
Great. Thank you, Cassie. Sure appreciate it. And definitely a lot of good info there. And especially some of the deadlines you pointed out. That's definitely something that people need to be aware of coming up, the June 1st deadline. And thanks. We look forward to working with you more here in the future. All righty. Thanks so much. Is Heather here today? Heather, are you in the audience with the Cohen Clinic? Okay, I think we may need to jump to Natalia Tag, who will be discussing the refugees, displaced families situation and the possibilities from this area. So, Natalia, if you're in the audience, take it away.
All right. Try to give you as much as I can in a few minutes.
Sorry. Yeah, we kind of crunched it.
It's okay. All good information. I'm going to put my contact in the chat here as well. Hi, everybody. I'm Natalia Tague. I'm a licensed clinician, approved clinical supervisor in the state of Virginia. I currently serve as a director of counseling and training services here at Western Tidewater CSB. Prior to coming here several years ago, I actually worked as a clinical director of a US-owned EAP or employee assistance provider in Moscow. Actually, the first one of its kind in that country. And we had served several cities around Russia, Ukraine, Belarus, and Kazakhstan, essentially providing mental health supports to employees of large corporations as well as expatriate supports. On a personal side, I think as Whit mentioned earlier, my family is Ukrainian on my mother's side and Russian on my father's. I grew up in between kind of Moscow and Yorktown myself. I would not call myself the absolute best expert on this topic, but I guess I'm the best we could do on short notice, so I'll try to be as useful as I can be. I put my email in the chat, so feel free to reach out to me if I can be of any further assistance going forward. What I really want to do today is try to give you a brief overview, a little bit of our Ukrainian history, touched on some of the cultural distinctions, and address some potential treatment implications as we go. So first, I just want to take a quick look at what Ukraine actually looks like. And it doesn't look all that different from us. It's a pretty developed country. They consist of about 45 million people. Primarily they speak Ukrainian, but it is worth noting that about a third of the people in certain regions also speak Russian. So specifically in areas like Kiev, you're going to see a lot of that. Only 30% rural, very literate, very progressive in terms of, electricity, sanitation, water, education, all the same things we see here. About 42% Orthodox in terms of religion, but again, post-Soviet era, many people don't necessarily subscribe to a religion. Life expectancy around 72 years, and they all die of heart disease and stroke, just like we do. So just to give you a brief overview, there's a nice long report available online from the World Health Organization from 2020, where you can see this in more detail if you ever have the interest. So I wanted us to start by looking at some intergenerational stressors, essentially looking back at the last 100 years or so in Ukraine and kind of what they've experienced. So if we look back at 1930, so 32 through 33, they went through what's called the Great Famine Genocide, or Golodomor, which loosely translates to death by starvation. Millions of people died in this. There were many, many premature violent deaths, disappearances, and of course, incarcerations during the Stalin era. Immediately after that, they encountered Nazi occupation. And of course, millions more were lost during World War II. And which was then followed by the period after World War II, where we're trying to build the country back up after tremendous losses. As you all know, in 1986, we had the Chernobyl disaster. There was huge impact to environmental pollution created by industrial plants as well. A few years later, in 1991, their parliament declared Ukraine an independent state from the Soviet Union, which of course was followed by severe anxiety, stress, and uncertainty, as the country had to kind of start all over and rebuild from anew. Many people during this time fell into poverty, and the next decade or so was full of corruption, scandal, lots of political issues, economical issues, and stressors on their social structures as they encountered as a young country. So if you think about it in that context, not a lot of things that contributed to really the building of a strong mental health system. In 2014, which is actually when I left there, and a big part of why I left, there was a sudden annexation of Crimea and the Russian assault on the eastern regions of Ukraine. And that was spring of 2014. The important thing to note here is it has not stopped since. So I know we've many of us have heard in the last few months about this conflict, this war that's happening, and in the last couple of days more about some of the war crimes and genocide that's happening. But it's important to note that this is not new. These people have been dealing with this specific conflict for close to a decade now. And again, thousands of deaths associated with this since 2014, and close to 2 million residents that were forced to flee their homes. And of course, many, many, many more now. Of course, 2020, global pandemic added to many of these burdens as it did here. And we all know kind of what's happening this year. So why am I telling you this? I promise it's not just to depress you. There's a reason. In 2014, World Health Organization data showed that Ukraine ranked among the highest 23 countries in the world for suicide rates for adults 25 and older. Their suicide rates are about 30.6 deaths per 100,000 people. The global average is a third of that. The prevalence of alcohol use disorders in Ukraine is 6% compared to the global 1.5. So what does this really tell us? If we take in the considerations of the last slide, this long history of conflict, what we're really looking at is pervasive generational trauma, right? These are not people that are just dealing with this one conflict for the last few months. These are people that are used to living in pervasive conflict for a very long time. And we'll talk about that kind of going forward, but it's one of the most important things to keep in mind. Another thing to keep in mind is this is a collectivistic culture. So, if we look at the US, we're more individualistic in our style. If you ask me to describe myself in America, I might say, I'm a therapist, I like dogs, I like to travel. Those are kind of my defining characteristics. Whereas in a collectivistic culture, I might say I'm a good daughter, I'm a supportive wife, and it's more kind of relational in those terms. So when you're working with clients or you're working with refugees from those cultures, keep in mind that they value themselves in the context of their social structure, not just by themselves as an individual, which also means when they're removed from that structure or removed from that society or family that is part of their identity, they're also losing a part of themselves. Secondly, seeking mental health services is really not normalized, and in fact, it's often stigmatized in these Eastern European cultures, including Ukraine. There is a history of having a large institutionalized psychiatric system associated with human rights violations that further contributes to this lack of service engagement and obstacles in building rapport. So to give you an example, when I was working in Moscow, I got a call one day in 2013 from an administrator at Google, who was one of our clients at the time. And it was still, to this day, one of the worst phone calls I've had to encounter, because they called and they asked, if one of our employees comes to you for mental health care and they reveal to you that they're part of the LGBT community, do you have to turn them into your government? Because in 2013, Russia passed a law that essentially made it punishable by law to be part of the LGBT community and to be openly gay. 2013, less than 10 years ago, right? So when you have laws like this being passed in the country, which I don't think that law is in Ukraine, but one of the concerns they have now is that it will migrate over along with all the Russian forces. When you have laws like this, how can you safely seek help from a mental health system when you don't know where they stand on that, right? Social services for people with mental disorders are limited or absent in the community. Yes, they have public health care, and yes, it is free, but mental health is often not considered to be a part of healthcare and is oftentimes not covered by it. So if you want to seek it, it's an out-of-pocket expense, and it might not feel entirely safe for you to do so. Counseling is also a relatively new field, and there's just a lack of clinical standards. There's no board of counseling, there's no board of social work, there's no licensure, there's no 4,000-hour internship or whatever we require here. It's more just you graduate with a degree and you start a practice and you hope it works out. And some people are really wonderful at it, and some are somewhat lacking. Now, culturally, religion, of course, plays an essential role in help-seeking behaviors in Ukraine. However, there's really no formal link between their religious organizations and the formal mental health system. They are very much separated. So, keeping all of this in mind, how does this impact our treatment or our interactions with potential refugees and immigrants? Main thing to remember is trust is going to take time. Again, keeping in mind this history of people who have suffered oftentimes at the hands of their own government, they're not going to come in very willing to give up their safety. And we have to be okay with that, and we have to work around it. Historically, what we have seen is in countries like Russia, Ukraine, Kazakhstan, there is less focus on behavioral therapies and cognitive modification like we do here, and a lot more focus on psychoanalytic, transpersonal, humanistic, and some of those expressive therapies. So what we see is a lot more interest in insight-oriented counseling methods. And this could be perceived as the kind of society shifts away from what they've perceived as traditional Soviet-era traditions. Now, it is also important to keep in mind that community-oriented cultures are accustomed to strong leadership and central authority, which sometimes is okay and sometimes not so good. But what we do know is Ukrainian clients may be more responsive to treatment that includes more directive and less non-directive techniques. So, for example, myself providing you some psychoeducation, giving you a structured technique to try, giving you an agenda for what we're going to do together, as opposed to me asking you, what's going on in your life today? Asking you a lot of questions and asking you to reflect. That's not to say you can't use non-directive techniques, but you may encounter more resistance, and it may take more time for that to really sink in and to develop that trust and safety piece. Now, why do we think that is? Why psychoeducational approaches? Why more of this kind of directive approach? Well, when you think about it, if I'm asking you to try a technique or I'm giving you information, I'm not necessarily asking you to risk too much self-disclosure where you might feel that you're putting yourself at risk or you're sacrificing your safety. So just keep that in mind as you're working with people. It's okay if this is the time the therapist works a little bit harder than the client, because in this case, the client may need a little bit extra time to really grow in their trust for you. And of course, when possible, try to observe your clients or whoever you're working with in their cultural context and their environment to better engage in meaningful intervention. To give you an example, when I was working at the University of South Carolina Counseling Center, I had a colleague who had a client, I believe she was a graduate student from an Eastern European country, and she had come for counseling. And my colleague brought this case to staff in our group supervision, and she said, this girl is, she has terrible boundaries with her mother, and they share a home and basically a bedroom, and I need to get her out of that. And I remember asking, well, did you ask her why? Because in many Eastern European countries, it's not that you choose or you want to live with your parents forever, you just don't have a choice. Some of that is socioeconomic status, and some of it is tradition that it's pretty normal for kids to live at home until they're married. I can tell you from personal experience, growing up, being born in Russia in the late 80s, growing up in early 90s, I had lived in an apartment with my older sister, mom, dad, grandma, grandpa, and uncle, all sharing 2 bedrooms for the first maybe 3 years of my life. Because that's all that there was. There was nowhere else to go. None of us wanted that, but here we are. So just remember to have that curiosity and ask about those things before making judgments. All righty. It's also important sometimes to get creative. We have these rules for ourselves, right? A session has to happen every week or every 2 weeks. It's 50 minutes long. And sometimes that works. It gives us a structure. It allows us to bill for our services. But it's not necessarily a one-size-fits-all kind of thing. Again, from a lot of collectivistic cultures, they're not used to seeking out mental health professionals' help. They are used to sitting around the kitchen tables to problem solve. So sometimes we need to recreate that. Share a meal, share some tea, maybe just don't share some shots. Offering specific exercises or expressive therapy, again, anything that doesn't necessarily involve as much self-disclosure from their parts in the beginning can be helpful. And one of the most important things is for them to feel connected to each other. So it's not about us. It's not that we can always give them some wonderful therapeutic advice. Sometimes what they really need is our help in linking them together and giving them a space to commiserate and to be together and to be supports for each other. So peer-led support groups can be a wonderful resource as well. Bitter loss. They're not only losing their home, but they're losing some of their family, especially males who right now they're not allowed to leave Ukraine. And many of their wives stay with them. So you're going to see kids without parents, wives without husbands, wives without their sons, their brothers, and on a smaller scale, loss of careers. You know, I have a family friend who was a prominent doctor back in Armenia. And when she moved here, she was nothing. And she had to go start school all over again. It took her about 15 years to become a nurse practitioner. Imagine what that kind of loss can do to your own psychology. Perhaps most importantly, I would say offer case management type supports. If people are coming here as immigrants, as refugees, they're not coming here for crisis counseling, right? They need to know that they have a roof over their head. They need to know that they can work, they can provide for their family. They need to know how to enroll their kids in school, how to access healthcare, how to get a social security number. Our culture is very, very different from the one they're coming from. All of these things are new, and these are the things to address before really digging into some of the trauma stuff. So when considering your goals from working in counseling or whatever position you're in, remember Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? Basic needs first, safety first, then we work on self-actualization, not the other way around. And lastly, don't forget yourself. Vicarious trauma and compassion fatigue are a real thing, and these are really hard things to work with. This is really heavy stuff. You know, it's hard right now to even look at the news, to see the pictures. Imagine hearing this from people. It's going to weigh on you. So make sure you have your own supports in place and you rely on each other, on me, and whoever else to make sure that you're helping yourself so that you can help others. And I think that is all. Any questions?
Natalia, great job, and I appreciate all the great info. I imagine we're probably looking at, you know, if we do start receiving people here in the area, most of the males are going to be staying behind and fighting out of necessity and out of being called to ask to serve. And are there, I mean, we have tried and discussed, you were discussing some things about, you know, how if somebody did come in to a crisis situation, came into one of our community service board urgent care centers, are there ways of getting interpretation help and getting cultural help in dealing with that someone could immediately access?
Sure. I don't know the volume of the supports, honestly. I know in our area, just in my personal community, I do have several people who speak Ukrainian and are willing to serve in that capacity. I unfortunately don't. I do speak Russian. So for that third of them that speak that, I'm happy to be a help, as are many other immigrants in our area. Now, of course, there are options like ESL teachers and things like that in our area, but they don't speak the native tongue. They just know how to more effectively teach children English.
Right. And yeah, that's great. I know we've kind of talked about that. I just didn't, I didn't know if you'd seen or heard anything else. I knew you were talking with family members about that also. And yeah, we our hearts and prayers are are truly with that part of the world right now, and it affects the whole world, obviously. And hopefully, we'll get some sort of peace ordeal or peace treaty to come through soon over there, in order to move forward with some common sense again. Roger, thank you so much, Natalia. And sorry we kind of ran over a little bit. Great information from everybody, and I do appreciate everybody's help in getting some information out, not only about service members and what their needs are, but about the possibility of displaced families here in the area. These are the realities of what's coming here soon, especially if this kind of tempo keeps up. But I can tell you for sure, living over there near Oceana Air Base, Naval Air Station, it is nonstop now. The training is almost day and night. You know, you don't hardly have a quiet moment until late night, almost midnight. They are training around the clock. Yeah, it's definitely serious times in our world right now. Just wanted to do one last parting thought from General Benjamin O. Davis Jr., the original commander of the Tuskegee Airmen. And his thought, and I believe he presented this to Congress: the privileges of being an American belong to those brave enough to fight for them. As one particular congressman was trying to oust him from his position, but he was very much right, and that statement applies to all servicemen and women who have been brave enough to fight for them, and I couldn't agree more. And he would absolutely know. He was quite a leader, quite a commander, and retired a 4-star. He actually retired a 3-star general and was given a 4th star later due to the obvious. He should have been a 4-star all along. Thanks so much. It was great. We sure appreciate the participation. You all take care, and God bless our service.